Look, Chicago was lit. We talked to Chezie. The team at Chezie was amazing. Thank you, Dumebi. Thank you for everybody for paying attention and like tuning in. You know, we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship. We haven't touched too much on the VC world, so we're gonna be going to New York. We're gonna be talking to some venture capitalists. That shit gonna be litty. Y'all need to be paying attention. Stay tuned in. And we up, baby.
All right, family. So welcome to the Pop Finance Podcast. Today, we got some special guests, 3 special guests. You know, this is not our normal stand-up. Our special guest today, if you could please introduce yourself. The Pop Finance family already know who we are.
Yeah, I'm Dumebi Egbuna, co-founder, CMO of Chezie, and we're like a management platform for employee resource groups.
Gotcha.
My name is Grant Leach, COO of Sports Ventures International and Prep Ball Stars.
So yeah, I want to take it way back because my brother knows you and he was telling me about you, but I don't know anything in the audience either. So if you could just take us back and just really tell us where you grew up, your origins, and you know, a little bit of that.
Okay. Was born in Nigeria and then immigrated to Winston-Salem, North Carolina when I was 2 with my family. So grew up in North Carolina, went to school at Emory in Atlanta, and then started working at IBM after Emory. I didn't really have entrepreneurship like on my, like that wasn't even a thought for me. Like I was just going to try and go like climb the corporate ladder and trying to do my thing there. And then I ended up getting into diversity and inclusion at IBM. That was super interesting to me. My brother was kind of doing the same thing at Accenture. So then we kind of teamed up to start Chezie. So that's the process.
Gotcha. So Chezie.
Yeah.
What is Chezie? What is it? What's
so
Chezie?
We are a management platform for ERGs. So ERGs are employee resource groups. So when you think of like Facebook, Microsoft, they have these groups at their companies. So like women at Facebook, Black at Facebook. So these groups that are like identity people. So we have a platform that helps people manage and track the things that are going on with their employee resource groups.
Gotcha.
And when exactly was it founded?
June 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said it's co-founded. Is you and your brother? Is that
It's
correct?
me and my brother. Yeah.
Okay. So did y'all both have this idea, or was it your idea and you sparked it to your brother? How did that?
So we actually started off as like a glass door for minorities. That was our first thought. Like, I think when we as minorities like start to look for a job, we don't know what it's going to be like to be a minority at that company. So we wanted to solve for that. But that shit was really hard. Like it's really hard to get reviews like Glassdoor has. Glassdoor has millions of reviews and like we just weren't there yet. So then we transitioned to focus on employee resource groups, and it was just kind of like we still wanted to focus on minorities in the workplace. That's still something that's really important to us.
Right.
So it was just like a natural transition.
Gotcha. So when building Chezie, I know you pretty much, did you have a plan, or how did that go about? What was step 1?
Yeah. I mean, for the Glassdoor piece, it was like, we talked to our friends, people who like looked like us, who were also on the job market, and they were like, yeah, that shit would be fire. Like that's something that we need. So then once we got that validation, we started building it. We created like a mock-up of our website on PowerPoint. Showed that to some people, like they were like, yeah, let's do this. And then we started actually building it out for real. And then whenever we transitioned to pivot into like the management platform for ERGs, my brother actually built the MVP on an app called Bubble, which is like a no code app. So like anyone can kind of like drag and drop and create like a application. And then once we got validation from there, we like hired people to actually build it out full time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he didn't have no programming experience. It was
neither of us are technical at all. So it was really just like a drag and drop type of platform, which is nice for people who don't have that type of experience, but like want to create something like low cost, low barrier to entry.
Was this like a subscription platform? Or
I think you pay like $200 a month, but then they have like all these courses and stuff. So they'll teach you how to like actually create the app in Bubble.
Right.
And then obviously once that's built out, you don't want to keep it on Bubble. Right. So you like, once you have validation from that app, you can start to actually like pay people to build it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
when you say validation, so for example, my brother and I are working on this app, and he has so many KPIs and metrics to know if the app is working as it should, or if it's not meeting the expectation. Can you tell me a little bit more about?
Yeah. For us, validation was more so like, would someone buy this? Right. And we actually, our first customer bought the MVP that was on Bubble.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, so people would be willing to buy this shit that we kind of, I don't want to say threw together, but like it wasn't what it is now for sure. So it was like, oh, someone is willing to buy that. Like we might as well invest into like building it out for real.
Gotcha. What was that price point like? Did you just
pull? We've played around with pricing a lot. Like I think our lowest subscription was like $6,000 a year. Now like our lowest subscription is like $15,000 a year. And like, we're trying to get that up to $25,000 a year as like our lowest like plan.
That's insane.
That is.
Yeah.
So, okay. You just mentioned y'all trying to get that up. Like what are y'all implementing into it to like get up your minimum subscription, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So one, it was just like, it was so low because we wanted someone to buy it. Like it was just like trying to get that first customer. And then now we're working with like the NBA, Airtable, Chegg. Like we have some big names. So like once you get that type of like customer base, you can start to increase it. And then obviously like we're taking it off a Bubble and building out like a full software, right? So like you got to pay for that too.
Right.
Yeah.
The NBA.
Those are some big names.
Yeah,
let's talk more about that.
Yeah, exactly. What was that like? The process behind that partnership? How did you even market yourself to them, or did they approach you? There had to be like a marketing plan, or were you just reaching out via email? What exactly did you do in order to get in these people's faces? Yeah.
So whenever we were like, when we talk about validation, we were talking to a lot of like DEI managers, ERG leaders, just about like what they would want to see. And then like, as we were building it out, we were continuously going back to them to like show them the platform.
Gotcha.
So like they were familiar with us from that standpoint. But so then when it was like ready to sell, they were familiar with our name. They were familiar with what we were doing. And then we could actually show them like a tangible piece of software. Not to say that any of those sales have been easy, but like, I think when you have like that name recognition, when you have like we have like established ourselves as thought leaders in this like DEI space. So people are just like familiar with our product. So that's been super helpful too.
So you talked about being the thought leader in the space. Talk about like the community that you've built, like having the events that you guys do. Is it weekly or monthly?
Yeah.
I'm just always blown away about that part of that aspect of your business. And
so I think when people are like, you're trying to sell something, like it's all about the awareness of what your product is, right? So like we really started out putting out a bunch of like free resources on our site. So we have like an ERG guide essentially. So for people who want to start ERGs at their company, they can like go download that and, use it to get them launched. We do monthly events around like ERG best practices and all these other things. So it was like people just attending these events. They're like playing around with our resources. So they're like, they know who we are. They can like we've like built some credibility with them. So like when we do start to have a sales conversation now at this point, they're like, oh yeah, I've been using your templates for a while. Like, it's just an easier way of getting in the door, I guess.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's great. My question is, also, I'm just thinking like on the back end of things, because you're describing it like the process, you're making it seem so easy, but I know there's like a lot of budget allocation that you need to account for. So can you tell me a little bit on what you did to just allocate, specific capital on, these events, or what did you provide? Like, what did you have to pay?
We've been bootstrapped to date. So like we haven't raised, well, now we have raised, but like when we were first getting started, getting our first couple of customers, we were trying to do everything as low cost as possible. Like the only thing we were really paying for was that Bubble subscription. Like all our events are on Zoom. Like I guess we pay for the Zoom subscription, but like, what is that, $12 a month or something? So like all of this stuff you can start to do for free. You can create a blog for free. You just got to like put in the time to like create the content. You can post these monthly events on Zoom. All you have to do is like plan out who's your speaker going to be, like that type of thing. But I guess when it comes to budget, like I think I always warn founders, it's like, make sure that like you have the validation first before you're actually putting in real money to like build out, because apps are expensive. Like we've probably spent at this point like 150 grand on like app development.
Software engineers.
Yeah,
man, they
like
charge a lot.
salaries.
Yeah.
Even like we have some developers out, and I think they're in Mexico. Like, and they're obviously cheaper than it would be in the States,
Right.
but it's still like 40 grand, 50 grand a year. Like,
That's insane.
yeah. So like I would get to a point where like, you know, someone is going to buy this before you actually start putting in that money to do it.
With no tech experience,
Yeah.
how are those conversations with developers? Because I'm in the tech space,
Yeah.
and I struggle, you know, still having some of the conversations with my brother and the developers who are outsourcing. Because you know, there's that gap. It's only so much that I know and that he knows, that, you know, we can only provide so much value or try to really iterate through what we want.
Sure.
So how did you go about that? How did
Yeah. So like obviously my brother like built the MVP in Bubble, but then he met this guy named Will who owns like a software development agency. He's been a CTO before. So like he came on as like, we call him like a fractional CTO. So he's kind of like, he'll just like give us some advising and like mentor us on like, like if we don't know something, he'll like give his input, or we'll have meetings with him. So like finding that person who has that expertise was key. Like we don't know what we're doing. I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to tech, even though I've worked at IBM. So it was just like making sure that you have the right people like on your team as you grow that out too.
No, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I was looking at this show where they develop apps and whatnot, and this guy was talking about he created an app. Well, he got people to create an app for him, but he spent like $1.2 million on it, and everyone was clowning him because it doesn't take that much. Like, yes, it's expensive, but the app was so simple, and he outsourced people from offshore. And he spent so much money on it, and they were pretty much just clowning him. And they were like, man, you need to go get a CTO.
Yeah.
So as far as that, like recruiting process and trying to get a CTO, did you go out there to like events? Did you do some postings?
How did that? So my brother, he went full-time on Chezie before I did. So like when he had first gone full-time, he went to go live in Mexico City for like a month and a half or something. And he actually met Will on some like casual shit. Like I think they met at like a bar or something. And it happened that it was like destined. It just happened that like he had this like technical experience. And then Toby was telling him about what we were building, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to, you know, learn more about it, help out where I can. So it was just kind of like, it was.
Dang.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about because you mentioned your brother going full time before you did. Were you kind of hesitant at first, like with quitting your full time job, because I'm sure that's where most of your income came from, to starting your business? How was that for you, the transition?
Yeah. So my brother's 2 years older than me. So like he's been working 2 years longer than I have. So like his savings were crazy. He had bought the house. He was, his 401k was looking right. I was like, I remember we've had this conversation too, where I was like, I just don't feel like I have the savings or like the foundation to like fall back on if this doesn't go right. And like, not saying that this won't, explode, but like if it doesn't, I do want to have like, make sure I have savings, make sure I can still afford like the lifestyle that I'm used to. So there was some like hesitancy. I was really like, I just want to make sure it's the right time. And then I ended up quitting July of this year. So like 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. And it just felt like the right time. Like my savings were in a good place. Like Chezie was doing well. Like we had the traction that I was like, oh, this makes sense to transition to full time now.
How was your family and friends as far as like support? Because I know when my brother went full time, it was like mixed emotions. Everyone telling him, no, you shouldn't have done it. You know, you had good income. And then some of them like, you know what, just follow your dreams. If it fails, it fails. You can just continue on to the next thing. So how was your family and friends, your inner circle?
It was mixed. So again, I'm Nigerian. So like we are just built on like practicality. Like, especially since we immigrated from Nigeria, it was like you came here to like have a good job. You came here to, have your life set. So like tend to like leave such a stable job at IBM and go full time. My mom was definitely like, what the fuck are you doing? My siblings were supportive. Grant was honestly so supportive. Like I don't think it would have been as easy if I didn't have like someone that I could talk to about like not to be on some corny shit, but like it was really like, I think I was anxious about it. I was excited, but I was anxious, and like just having someone I could touch every day was very helpful. Support. Yeah, for sure. So it was like, I think everyone was supportive. My mom just has the mindset of like Nigerian immigrant, like we need to be.
So transitioning from your 9 to 5 to going full time with your business, have you seen any differences in your lifestyle changes?
I've tried. I've really, really tried. So we have gotten to a point where we can pay ourselves. Okay. It's not what I was making at IBM.
Okay. You gotta start somewhere though.
Right. You got to start somewhere. And I think it still allows me to, pay the bills, go out when I want to go out. I should probably budget more strictly, and he's a lot better at budgeting than I am. But yeah, honestly, I would say no change, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Okay. So,
well, that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right.
So, who out of the both of y'all is the most conservative? Who likes to manage the money the most?
1,000%.
That's definitely me. I worked in investment consulting and in banking. Now I'm doing tech sales, but I still consider myself a finance guy. So. Yeah.
He has like a monthly budget that he puts in and shit, and I'm like, I have no idea what I just spent on anything.
Yeah, but she is pretty good with her money. I will say that.
Yeah. Gotcha.
She's not too crazy.
That's good. So you pretty much keep her on check with some stuff when she try to get out of pocket. I have to do that with my girl sometimes because it's like she just starts spending a lot of money. I'm like, hold on, wait. Inflation is up. Things are going high. Like, hold on, because they forget.
No, yeah, it's a good balance. I'm definitely more conservative money wise, but I'm glad. She kind of puts me on my shoulder. Like, okay, let's go do this. Let's go have a good times. Go out to eat, we want to make sure we're still enjoying ourselves. So I think it's a good balance.
The motto is like, the money is always flowing back to you. Who knows when, where, but it'll come back.
For sure. Gotcha. Nah, I definitely agree. As far as investments, so you're making this income from Chezie. Is that something you guys are reinvesting in the company and then reinvesting some of those profits into other investments, like maybe crypto, stocks? You did mention real estate. How's that going for y'all? What are some of the investments you guys got going from those profits?
For Chezie, most of the money is like put back into the business. So like we're developing, we're doing all this other stuff. So like all of that is pretty much there, and unless we talk about like salaries and stuff. But yeah, I have like stocks. I obviously bought this place. I'd love to get further into real estate and like get another property or whatever, but we'll see. Like right now, honestly, like savings and investments aren't necessarily top of mind for me. Like I'm just kind of focused on like, let's see where Chezie goes. But he is really like, you're doing a lot. So
yeah, tell me a little bit.
I just always wanted to be an investor since I was like a little kid. No matter how much money someone makes, I feel like there's always room to invest somehow. Right. So for me, I started off with just like index funds, like, kind of like monthly putting into that. I actually started that in college. And I actually was able to save enough money to buy my first investment property. I did that like two years ago now. Wow. So I have a duplex. It's cash flows, equity is looking good. Then also I invest in stocks, crypto. Gotcha. I have a business with my dad, which is SVI, Sports Ventures International. We make custom sportswear for AAU teams, schools. So I try to use all my 9 to 5 income to of course, allow me to have a decent lifestyle, enjoy myself, but also fund as many investments, side hustles as I can.
Gotcha.
That's great. And if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you got your first property?
I was 25. I just turned 27. So nice. I bought that when I was 25.
That's really good.
That is.
Yeah. You mentioned index funds. I didn't even know what an index fund was when I was in college. Can you tell me a little bit about what an index fund is and how'd you find out at such a young age?
Yeah. So basically an index fund is like a basket of stocks. So like an index fund, they usually have like a theme or like a broad market index fund. The main one that I use is VU. Okay. It's like a broad market index fund. So like the top 500 companies are in that fund. Gotcha. And it really mirrors the S&P 500, if you know what that is. But the way I learned was just reading books. Like my family didn't really invest. I think what was the first book I read was A Random Walk Down Wall Street. And that book just talked about basically investing in index funds. And I was like, just running Google searches, learning on YouTube on what that was basically.
Yeah. So you consider yourself a long-term investor, or are you one of those guys who's trading options and kind of just day trading, or do you do a mix of both?
So I'm first and foremost a long-term investor. That's just like my foundation. Is how I started off. I worked in investment consulting in my first job, and we managed 401k and pension plans for a lot of large companies. So that's pretty much where I built my foundation. I think everyone should start there. I recently got into trading a little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten to options much yet, but that's one of my goals for 2023. Yeah, so I plan on doing that in 2023.
Nice.
But I think anybody should start with index funds. That's like the main thing you should start with.
Yeah, it's a little less risky.
And have you always been good at saving, or is that something as you got older and matured that you had to learn? Because some people it's in them from early on, but some people they have to learn. So I know you mentioned your family is really well at saving as well. So was it something you had to learn, or did you always have that in you?
I think I've always been good at savings. Like even when I was a kid, I would get birthday money, Christmas money. I just like to watch it accumulate. So I would put it under my mattress, save it up. And maybe buy something big. Like I don't know what I was into at the time, but I've always kind of been into saving money. My mom, not really good at that at all. My mom was a hairstylist, was making a lot of money at a young age, and she would buy me whatever I wanted, and I would always be like, "Mom, we should save," But yeah, that's something I kind of was always good at, and then I learned how to invest and like what that really means and the appropriate ways to do that for that would work for me.
Gotcha.
And I'll just say, I think a good thing about Grant is he's put other people on.
Nice.
I think he has learned it for himself, and now even with his mom, she has her own investment account with some of his friends who'll be like that. You should be in real estate. You should be in this side hustle and that side hustle. Yeah. So I think when people talk about just having a good group of people around you, get someone who knows what they're doing with their money, so you can also know what you're doing with your money.
Right. And I think that's great because most people like that, they try to keep it to themselves, but it's good, spread it around, so others can learn and do the same thing,
Right.
So I have a question. So for Grant, what are one or two tips that you can share with the average Joe who has no knowledge about investing?
No knowledge about investing. I would just say start with index funds. VOO is the ticker, VOO or VTI. It's a broad market index fund, and you'll basically be investing in all of the top companies in America. So whether it's $5 a week or $100 a month, I would set an amount that you're going to invest consistently, and you're going to do something called dollar cost averaging, which is basically just putting yourself almost like a subscription, but it's to your future self. That's how I try to think about it.
Gotcha.
So I think that's how I started. I started with $50 a month, in college.
Yep.
And then as I got the hang of it, I started doing more. So that's the first thing that I would tell somebody to do.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding nowadays. A lot of people think that once you invest, you just gotta have $100,000, portfolio.
Yeah.
It is it can eventually get to that, with the proper training and knowledge, and then just being able to put some of that money, into, like you said, an index fund or, Tesla or these other stocks, Apple. Of course, you gotta do your due diligence, or else you could probably screw yourself over.
So could you explain what an ERG is, or BRG, a business resource group, is for people that may not know, and how Chezie can help those?
Yeah. So I think when you look at minorities in the workplace, we struggle with feeling belonging. You're probably working, at least for me at IBM, I was working with a bunch of older white men. I'm 26 now. I was 25. I was working with people who were 40, 50, 60, had been at IBM for 35 years. So it was just it wasn't my group of people. I definitely struggled with feeling oh, I don't belong here, some imposter syndrome, all that stuff. So ERGs, the main purpose of them, so employee resource groups, the main purpose of them is to help foster this sense of belonging and community for marginalized people. So it's getting all the Black people at Facebook together in a group, and they'll have different events and programs, and just the main goal is to help other people who look like us find their community at work. That it's also for feedback from an organization. So say a women's group can talk about Roe v. Wade got overturned, like what we need benefits from the company, like let's come together, figure it out, and then like take it to leadership on like what our request is. So it's like almost a form of like organizing, like advocacy organizing. So yeah, that's what an ERG is. So like for us with Chezie, we have a management platform where people can actually like join an ERG on the platform, and then like the managers of those ERGs can like get some data and metrics around like how their ERGs are being impactful to the business. They can like streamline a lot of the processes and things that go into planning events for your ERG or like tracking budget for your ERG. So like we're just making ERG work easier.
Now, quick question. So, like, how did you get into that space? Because when I first heard about Chezie, and shout out to Jordan because she told me about it, I was like,
my
man,
girl.
Yeah, it's like such a brilliant idea because, like, there's like little secrets in life that you don't see. A lot of people don't see them, but they're there. Like, kind of like Steve Jobs discovering the personal PC. That's like a little secret in life. ERGs, for some reason, at every company I work with, it's Slack channel, right? Yeah. Everything gets managed through the Slack channel. You might hear from your manager, hey, we're going to have an event for the Hispanic leadership group or whatever.
Right.
Go attend. Or like little like pamphlets and shit. Right. But nobody's really managing the analytics, which data is really where you start seeing the trends.
Oh, yeah.
How did you come across that gap? You know what I'm saying? With so much information like being thrown into you, what made you be like, oh, snap, there's really a gap right there?
Yeah. So I was a Black ERG leader at IBM. My brother was the Black ERG leader at Accenture. So like we're familiar with the impact of ERGs, but also like the disorganization of ERGs, right?
Right.
So knowing that we were at one time struggling with these things, it was easier for us to build a product that could like cater to some of those needs. But also when we look at like our grand vision for ERGs, they're great for like fostering inclusion, fostering belonging, but they could also be a really great like business resource. So like your product team could work with your disability ERG to make sure the product is inclusive or accessible to people with disabilities, right? Like the marketing team could work with the Black ERG to make sure like the marketing content that they're putting out is inclusive to the Black community. So like when you look at like you remember like the H&M like shirt scandal and it had the black kid with the monkey.
Yeah.
Like if you had shown that to people in the Black ERG, they would have been like, what the fuck is this?
It's like making it more cohesive.
Right. Like it can make everything, if you used your ERGs to like that scale, it can make everything in your company much more inclusive.
That's true. It's because everything is siloed. It's kind of like data, in the company, everything is siloed. And that's the thing. I never thought about that. So now that y'all kind of like delved into that space and started working within it, are y'all seeing like meaningful change from interacting with the people? I did read that y'all have like over 1,400 people signed up, which that's another thing we got to talk about, like scaling and selling this to people, Yeah. But what's like the impact now that you're seeing?
Yeah. So now I think when I look at like our impact, it's been like company specific. So like our first company that we worked with was Chegg. So like the textbook rental company.
Shout out to Chegg.
Shout out to Chegg. I used to use Chegg.
Tell me what a couple quizzes.
But I think like one of the best stories to tell about them is like before using us, they were about to go hire like a manager for their ERGs. And then like once they implemented Chezie, they didn't even need that manager anymore because we had streamlined and done a lot of the processes that the manager was about to do. Right. So like there's cost savings in that, there's time savings, there's like greater engagement that we've gotten within their groups. Like, and we're trying to do that with all the companies that we're working with. Exactly. Yeah.
As far as scaling it, I know it requires some capital. Jill was telling me that you guys raised capital by doing pitches. Can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Yeah.
And, did you really get on, like on like a Shark Tank type, panel? Like, hey.
No, it wasn't that crazy, but like, me and my brother were really like intentional about like not dumping a lot of like our own money into it until it was validated. But then two, we want to be mindful about like the amount of the company that we give up to investors. So for the first year, we were bootstrapped. And I'm just taking like from the time we pivoted to focus on like what we're doing now. We were bootstrapped, and all of our capital, our funding came from grants and pitch competitions. So like our first big grant was the NPR How I Built This, if you know that podcast. They had
I love Guy Ross. It's so crazy because
Watch
the
this
first
a
time I
lot.
reached out to her, my friend, again, shout out Jordan. She's gonna be watching this. So like I basically reached out to Jordan and I was quitting was it that day that I reached out that I told you I quit? Yeah, so I'm like I worked at IBM, but it was a subsidiary called Promontory Financial Group who was bought out by IBM. And you know, I quit that day or whatever. No. I was working with KPMG. I had just left Promontory like 2 months ago. And I'm looking at my LinkedIn and Jordan had told me she has a friend who's a founder because I was like, hey, I need to get founders on my show, whatever. And she told me, oh yeah, I know somebody who has a company named Chezie or whatever. Dumebi comes across my like LinkedIn and it's so funny because like that was that morning. You know what I'm saying? I had just quit and her post was focused on, hey, I just quit also. And I was like, oh man, I need to get on the show. Like, you know, and then after I learned that she worked at IBM too, I reached out to Jordan. Jordan was like, oh yeah, I could connect you like real quick. Yeah. So like, all that to say, where was I going initially? Shit. But I forgot what I was going to say.
NPR.
Oh, Guy Ross. Right. So I started researching your name and I saw like you were on Guy Ross. So for the people who don't know like who Guy Ross is like one of the biggest startup like entrepreneur podcasts. If you want to be an entrepreneur successfully, like that's the podcast to be on. So like, I don't know how you got on that podcast, but tell me like, how was that when, you know, Guy Ross, you were like funded by him. You even were able to get on the podcast. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah. So they had so he has that podcast, like How I Built This. And then I think they had their first like fellowship and like in the startup world, there are things called like accelerators. And it's like,
and just because I don't know, like a fellowship is like
it's similar to an accelerator. So like an accelerator is like, typically it's like a 6-8 week program. They give you a bunch of mentorship. They might give you some funding, but they are really selective about like the startups that they accept into these accelerators. And typically they take a bit of like equity. So like YC, that's the biggest, like I think Airbnb went through YC. Y Combinator. TechStars is another one. So they started their own like fellowship program. They weren't taking equity, but I think they had like 10 founders in that program. And it was like a 6-week, them giving us some mentorship, some coaching on like, how do we pitch? How do we, you know, structure our company? What are some things that we should be thinking about?
Right.
And then at the end of that program, they had a pitch competition and whoever won that pitch competition got to be on I think anyone who was in that program, all those founders got to be on the podcast. But if you won the pitch competition, you got $50K. And my brother was the one who pitched. And after it, he was like, that fucking sucked. Like, I don't think I got it. Like, he was so negative. And then like 10 minutes later, he texted me like, we just won, . And I was like, what the fuck?
That's crazy.
And like, that was our first big check, like $50K.
So that was probably like your first validation that y'all got something going on.
Hell yeah. Like that is a big deal to be, especially from someone like Guy Raz who has talked to, you know, Airbnb founders. Top of the top, people who have built like $1 billion companies, you know? So to like get that validation from him. And then Toby, of course, that was an ego boost because Guy Raz was like, I really believe in like you as a founder, you as a CEO.
Nice.
So we got that. We got the $50K, and then they did like a short documentary on us, which was wild. Like NPR's team came to my hometown in North Carolina, and like we were walking around, and like they were interviewing us and stuff.
Documentary is live on YouTube.
Documentary is live on YouTube.
We gotta link it on the channel.
Yeah, for real.
Shit, we'd have played that.
But, but no, it was dope. So that was our first big round first like funding at all, and then we were doing just different pitch competitions. We got into like the Amazon Black Founders program, so they gave us $125K for no equity. We got into the Google Black Founders program for $100K no equity. So right there is what, like almost $300,000 of no equity, like no non-dilutive capital, right? So like we got to keep all of our business and got that funding, so we could like hire 3 members of our team. We could start to really build out the product. And now we just I guess earlier this fall, we're doing like our pre-seed round, and we just closed that out. Hopefully, we're like still in like due diligence and signing, but like $1.1 million in our pre-seed round.
So, what is the pre-seed exactly?
Yeah, so like when you are raising capital for your company, there are stages of like the funding round, and as you get deeper into these stages, you're giving away more more equity, right? So people, have raised like their Series D, and they probably have like, as a founder, you probably have like 10% of the company left because you've gone through pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, Series C.
So each series is basically like a stage where investors are taking your money.
Right, exactly.
Like okay.
And like as you're progressing through those series, like your valuation goes up. So like a pre-seed, we raised our pre-seed round on a $6 million valuation. Hopefully if we raise the seed round, we'll be like more closer to like a $10-15 million valuation. And you just keep going.
Right.
So y'all are really getting the bag. Did the Brinks truck pulled up and just delivered it, or was it like a check? Do you get it all in full? Was it like monthly? What's the compensation plan like?
For
what
those
happens?
grants, it really is.
Question, because I seen FTX.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Like,
money.
it's like the lottery where they tell you like, you want it all in full? Or do you want it in 10 months or like 30-year payments?
Yeah. So I think for the
I'm gonna open this up.
Yeah, for sure. For the NPR one, $50,000 just wired into our account.
Oh, y'all went shopping. I know you got that hoodie, didn't you?
I think the Amazon one was like over the course of the program, which was 6 to 8 weeks, they would just deposit like $35,000 or whatever that breakdown is. But for like this pre-seed round, it's like whenever you sign the deal, they will just transfer that $500K, $350K, whatever.
Now, do y'all like get lawyers and everything through? Like, how's the paperwork? Because I hear some scary stories about the paperwork and shit.
Yeah, and I will be transparent. Like, I don't necessarily handle the fundraising stuff. Like, that's really been my brother. But like, we do have a lawyer. VCs have their own terms. So like when they, on Shark Tank where like you're like, I want $100K in exchange for 10% of the company, and the VC will be like, I'll give you $100K for 25%. Like it really is like that back and forth. So you have to have a lawyer to make sure that they're not trying to like
BS you.
Yeah, BS you or like do whatever.
I want to kind of pinpoint on the name. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was doing a little bit of research. At first, was your company called Dyversifi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about that. Like, what brought about the name change, and why did you decide to change it?
Yeah. So whenever we,
he said Nardo.
whenever we started like the Glassdoor for minorities idea, it was Dyversifi. And then whenever we went to go like try and copyright that name, they were like, there's already a similar company like in the DEI space that has a similar name, so you can't copyright it. I didn't really love that name anyway. Like to me, it's kind of cheesy. Right. Like, so then whenever we went to change it, we our Igbo, like Igbo tribe of Nigeria, and Chezie is the Igbo word for reflect. Ooh. So like we were like, let's like pay homage to like like our roots, our family. So it was just like it was that.
So that was more fitting anyway.
It was more fitting. It was more like relevant to us. Now we have like a stronger story because I think like whenever you're pitching anyone, like they still want to know about like the background, like where did that come from? Like there's just a stronger. It's more relevant.
So now, as both of you, both of y'all are obviously like very intertwined in like business, investments, and stuff like that. When you're like at your level, it could be very difficult. You know what I'm saying? I personally, like, to put it out there, I'd be stressing myself out and I don't even have money coming in. Right now, like my product is not even finished.
Right.
So it's like, how do y'all deal with it? Having like a full-time relationship, you got some properties you got to manage. You have a full-time business that you're like now scaling yourself. Yeah. So like, how is that balance? How do y'all keep yourself sane? How do y'all keep yourself like?
No, go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say and at a very young age.
Yeah.
Because man, y'all sound like y'all like very seasoned with properties and funding. Like y'all know so much, and like your typical 25-year-old, 24, 23, man, they're on some other stuff. Like, this generation is different.
It's like very patient. Type of shit I want to invest in.
Yeah, he said, I was like, are you short term or like long term? He's like, long term index funds.
Yeah.
Like, very good, very good.
It's hard to lose.
Yeah.
Long term.
Yeah.
I was hoping you was gonna start.
I don't know. Good. Gather your thoughts.
It's I don't know. I think we do a really good job of balance. We try to keep work separate from our relationship and what we do. We try to make sure we're very supportive of each other. We try to have a lot of positivity around.
But as far as like balancing the schedules, I feel like it's nice that we're both kind of have the same vision. We both have big goals, big dreams, and I feel like we just support each other's mission, on this journey.
So like day to day, you know what I'm saying? Everybody don't be seeing the grind. Like people just think, boom, 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 you're pitching and shit successful. Like how is it really y'all's day to day? You know what I'm saying? Like the way you moving. I'm guessing for like managing a property ain't easy. Like me and my shorty got a house and there's repairs that have to be done. You think there's never going to be repairs, but it's just a house, there's repairs. So with a property, you probably got to be out there managing itself. Like there's a lot of like expenses that go into that, right? That people don't get to see in the back end. With a startup, there's a lot of costs, not necessarily money wise, but that you have to account for, you know what I'm saying? That people don't see. Maybe sometimes like taking on things that you're not supposed to take on because it's just like, you got to set the example. So can you kind of share a little bit about that? Because I feel like in entrepreneurship is really important to kind of like put that out there. I feel like it's been like, if you get on social media, the glorification of like entrepreneurship is so easy. Mm-hmm. And I know that that's kind of like a thing that everybody kind of want to do right now. And even like people have been starting to talk about it. It's like, nah, it's hard. Yeah. I was seriously depressed on month 2. Like it was crazy because I had no bread coming in, bro. That was the hardest thing. Like kind of like trying to separate yourself from salary. Yeah. And being like, damn, now you're living on savings. Yeah. That's some humbling. You know what I'm saying? That's when you start like having like secondhand thoughts of like, did I do the right decision? Yeah. So how has that been for y'all? Has that been like an obstacle or challenge respective to y'all's like different business endeavors?
Yeah, I think anytime you start a business, it's like a real, or you're trying to do this entrepreneurship thing, it's a real adjustment and a lot of training almost you have to do to like mentally, like changing your mindset on certain things. I feel like that's like the biggest hurdle you have to go through because you're gonna have those moments where you're like overwhelmed and you're depressed. But I think the biggest thing is consistency, like just starting and just being consistent with it, like whatever it is, like just come up with a game plan and just stick to it. We both do a lot. I feel like I do a lot, and I know she's, running like a huge company, or company is going to be huge. Right. But the biggest thing that I learned from her is like the consistency. Like it might not, in some ways entrepreneurship is glorified and it's like a grind. But when I watch Dumebi like go about her business, it's almost like it's so effortless. Yeah. Sometimes because she's so brilliant. But the things that she does is like, we wake up from 8 a.m. to about 5, she's working. Right. She's working. And then when that's, 5 comes, we make dinner, we relax, hang out a little bit. She might get on the computer for a little while. But I think the biggest thing is just consistency and then time management.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that like, because even with our first idea being a completely different thing than what we were originally like set out to do, like although you might believe in, I still love that idea. I would actually like to do it at some point, but it just was not working. And like we were putting so much effort into it. Like we were beginning to put in resources. We were thinking about putting in money into like ads and shit. And it just was not working. And it was just like, okay, so we can either like keep going, keep like wasting stuff, or we can pivot. And I think like that's what you have to be open to as an entrepreneur is like some of your shit, even though you might love the idea, it's not going to work. You just have to be open to like going to the next thing and trying the next thing and trying the next thing. And that is not, it's not fun. It can be really frustrating, but like you just have to be open to that. And then you're also just going to make stupid mistakes. Like, like we brought on.
Why are you laughing? He started thinking about that shit.
Like we.
Take some L's.
Nah, for real.
Yeah, one of our first hires was like a software engineer, and she, great background. Like she had a lot of experience, but like startup life is different. Like you have to be like kind of on the clock all the time. Like it's not going to be, and you're not just going to be doing software engineering. You might have to do a little bit of like product management. You might have to do a little bit of like let's build out a roadmap. You might have to do a lot of stuff. And I think she was just so set on like, I'm a software engineer. Like that's the only thing.
Right. Just siloed in that position. Is like, that's
we're
me.
Like as a startup, as a small team of 5, like we need you to be like a jack of all trades or whatever that saying is. So we ended up like firing her after a month. So it was just it's like you're going to make, I wouldn't even say dumb mistakes, but like you're going to make mistakes, but you also just have to like correct them fast.
You see, I'm glad you touched on that because that's actually like a hard thing to do. Like firing people. Can you like talk a lot more about that? Because so I might want to fire your ass. You know, he's my brother.
Hey, hold on.
I'm fucking with you. But nah, look, like, so he's my brother, right? And you're running the company with your brother. Remember the first time I talked to you, I was like, how do you manage that? Like, how do you balance out? So if there's any other entrepreneurs who are starting a business, maybe with a sibling or something like that, how do you establish those boundaries? But also, how do you go about putting on that game face sometimes and like turning off not the kind face, you know, because you could be, I've read like a lot of books on leadership and there's a couple ways to go about it. You could be the fear person, you know, instill fear and get people to do your thing, or you could lead with leadership, like inspiration. Both things can work. It just depends on who you are as a person. Me, I try to be nice sometimes, but that nice can actually like, kind of like not set change. So when it comes to firing and stuff, how did you, is that something that you learned or is something that you just like, man, like, how was that experience? I've never dealt with anything like that.
So we were in New York, like as a team doing something. And then I was like headed to the airport to come back here. And he was still in the room with like that engineer. And she was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to lunch. Like, and it was like still middle of the workday. And Toby was like, this isn't going to work. So he called me and he was like, I think we have to fire her. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm like you. I'm like very nice.
But should we try again?
No, I was like, are you sure? Like, did we give her enough time? And he was like, yeah, I think this was a mistake. And like a software engineer for a startup, like that is one of the most important roles, especially an early software engineer. So I was like, I mean, let's do it, but I'm going to let you handle it. And I think Toby just like called her and was like, hey, like, really value the work you do, like really value your experience. Like she was a good software engineer, but it was just like not the right fit for us. So I think he just kind of explained the situation and she took it how she took it. So yeah, like I think you have to get over like the nice thing, like always be respectful. Like that is one of my like values is like always be respectful. But at the end of the day, like you know what you're building, and if people are going to be a barrier to that,
you
gotta do what you gotta do.
I see it more like you also like owe it to the company, right? Like you're trying to build, especially you're building something that's mission driven. Like there's responsibility of what you're trying to do for the company is bigger than you. You know what I'm saying? Even if you are shareholder in the company, it's like are doing a service like for y'all's mission. So that's really what y'all gonna like serve to.
Exactly.
Type shit.
I have a quick question. If your brother's not performing, would you fire him?
I don't think that would ever be a question. You know, Toby, like he works his ass off. Like if anything, it would be the inverse. Like especially when we were first starting, and I was also very early in my career at IBM, so it was a really hard like balancing act of like I am still only like a year or two in at IBM. Like I also need to do this work. So he was also on my ass a lot. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, well, let me really.
I'll be in the room and I'll be on the cell phone watching.
Bro, he calls me.
Then I sit my ass down. I just called him. I'm like, let me call his ass again. I'm like, hey, bro. Like,
he calls me and I be in meetings. I'm like, bro, I'm in a meeting. He was like, man, when comes before the meeting? I'm like, hold on.
But it's not like that. It's more so like, cause when you're so passionate about something, like me, bro, this shit sound corny. Y'all gonna be like, man, shut your corny ass up, but I don't care. Like, I get passionate when people talk about impactful things. You know what I'm saying? Especially with minorities, like my parents, the fact that they don't have no 401ks, no investments, they have all their money is in savings, getting killed by inflation. And it's so funny because you try to tell them, but they've been entrepreneurs since they got here from Mexico. So they think they're not gonna see this, so I don't really care. They're like, they think you just like they're not gonna understand this. So like, they think you trying to like really and like tell them how to do things, you know? So it's kind of annoying, and that's when I like very passionate. So it's like I be on his ass because I'm like, bro, it's not that we need to make Win successful, but we got a bigger mission. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever this builds out to, if it doesn't work, then it's just not there. Maybe we need to do it another time. But it's like the mission is the important part. So it's like, that's why I be feeling so urgent sometimes.
he even put a date. He was like, "Hey man, if you don't quit by like, would you say by March of next year?" Or
Yeah, because
like,
it really takes you from 0 to 1.
If you don't quit your job by March or May, yeah, I'm gonna have to kick you out the team. I'm like, dang, hold on.
Yeah, me and
We
my
talking
yeah.
all day. So I'm like, Angelo, you ready to go full time?
Yes.
Bro, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna go full time.
Yeah, me and my brother used to have those conversations too. I was like, because again, he was 2 years older than me, like had been working, had all the savings and all this stuff. And I was like, my nigga, I am not there.
There was a long time where you were working doing both jobs.
Yeah.
And you were like stressed.
Yeah.
And quit that shit.
Yeah. So we definitely had those conversations of like, he was on my ass for real, but like we needed it. I needed it.
Yeah.
Because I think it was also just spoke to like how much he believed in it from jump.
Right.
You know?
How does somebody who want to quit like navigate that space? You know what I'm saying? Is it reasonable to kind of like start saving money or like start investing their money and maybe like 2-3 years out be like, okay, I'm gonna like exit my job, or like what would be like a reasonable strategy?
I think financially, like break it down to the numbers. Like literally look at how long you think it's going to take you to get your side or your business, to be able to, take take a salary from your business. How long is that going to take? It's going to take 6 months. It's going to take a year. And then building up savings to cover that. So you should be like, okay, well, I spend $5,000 a month on my living. I'm going to need to sustain myself without a job for 6 months, for 12 months. Calculate that out. Say I need $60K and I'll quit my job.
Right.
I think that's what you really need to do.
I have a question. So that's very smart. So for
Hold on.
I have a question. Man, hold on. Okay. No, because I was gonna say he's been pressuring me to quit. Wouldn't it be smart?
I'm not pressuring you. I'm just letting you know. I'm giving you a date.
Okay.
That's
Right.
Wouldn't it be smart for me to keep my job? I have a good salary, and then like let's say he goes bankrupt. Not even bankrupt, but struggling.
Let's not speak that.
Risk management.
Okay, so there's no income, like let's say for the next 6 months to a year, but I still got a good stable income, and we gotta pay for another app iteration. Wouldn't it make sense to still keep my job, which I can still finesse, and leverage some of my money into the application instead of us just digging from our savings and maybe even maxing out our credit cards for like expenses and other stuff?
There's also that, like, if your 9 to 5 is flexible enough to where you can do both, do fucking both.
Yeah,
like
your 9 to 5 is not flexible.
Like I was at a point where IBM, it was busy at points, but it was never like always. I was never working a 40-hour week. Sorry, IBM. I was never working a 40-hour week.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, how many hours a day are you spending on your job? How many hours do you need to spend on finance?
So honestly, I spent I be working. So
hey, just know this boy be getting off work. His brain cells is fried.
Man, they be fried.
Like,
okay.
So it's kind of like you got to make the trade-off, because once you at his level, like senior engineer, they're going to be wanting you to like, he got to be checking the servers on the weekend. And like, I kind of feel bad sometimes because it's kind of like you got to separate work, right? Work at the end of the day is work.
Yeah.
I care about building equity though.
Yeah.
It's like equity is going to serve our generation. So it's like I'm telling him like, bro, eventually you got to make that trade-off.
Yeah.
Like, learn whatever you can, but
it's
not going to get any better for you.
It's just going to be that trade-off. It's like, how much is the 9 to 5 hurting your business?
So
it's just like, bro, like, Dumebi, because I feel like people don't know until they go full time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, bro. I used to read these stories. I'm like, man, shut y'all capping ass up. Like, you read these entrepreneur stories and you're like, that's cap. And then I went full time and I was like, oh shit. I think the first month was like, let me tell you how I felt, real talk. Like, everybody listening right now, I'm about to tell you how I felt. The first month was on some like, let me build. I was actually inspired. First month was like energy every day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then I was building on content. Second month, I felt very alone. It was like, okay, what's next? You know what I'm saying? And I got depressed, bro. I got depressed where I started questioning myself. I never questioned myself, by the way. My ego bigger than Kanye's. Like, real talk, I cannot fail. So it's like,
Kanye loves a Kanye, even bigger than that.
I could do anything I want, for real. I'm dead
that's the
ass.
mentality you need to have.
Yeah, so like, I was like, the fact that I was questioning myself, I was like, damn, something is like, a loose screw is in there, So I was like, that's how depressed I was. But why was I depressed? I think it's because So I went from working at Promontory, and then I got like one of the highest salary raises I've ever had. So it's like it comes easy when like you start getting money.
You're always
it's like, oh, I could keep getting more money, you know. And that's the getting you on promotions, more money, and I think it was like this connection.
Yeah.
As soon as I got disconnected from salary, it felt like I was missing something. I was like, damn, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like friends is all getting promotions and this and that.
Yeah.
So you fall into that like
hell
thing.
yeah. Because like in your 9 to 5, you're always like your manager at least is like, good job.
Right.
Entrepreneurship, no one is saying fucking good job until you
only person saying good job is me when I'm in the shower. I'm showering like, damn, that's a good idea. You know what I'm saying?
But you're not getting that like on your day to day. So you are like, damn, like, am I doing this right? So it's a big mindset shift. Like you have to really be the one to talk yourself up.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was telling him. When you finally go full time, it's like you realize that, oh shit, full time could do some wonders.
Yeah.
If you really put the energy into it, and shit could like change up fast. So that was a long streak right there. One thing I want to talk about is kind of like one of the biggest challenges. So yeah, you know, y'all started Chezie, y'all scaled it to like 1,400 clients, but like now they are.
Where are you getting that 1,400 clients from?
I saw a story. It said that I had over 1,400 people. It was on the web.
Oh, I think that's from like the Glassdoor idea. So we had like 1,400 people like leave us reviews and like do all that stuff. But that's still
okay.
That idea we don't even do anymore. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for
now we have
that.
now we have I think 12 or 13 customers, but we'll probably bring on like 5 or 6 more before end of the year.
How many in the community in the site?
Like 350, 360. Yeah.
So like, I mean, there's still gonna be challenges like, you know, leading people and like scaling. That's actually, people think it's just you start getting money and you know, start expanding. You see the dude from FTX, he's just like getting money. And shit always happens when you start getting money because you gotta find out where to invest it. You as an investor, you know, you got to know where to allocate capital. You were just talking about earlier, I didn't know if to put the money in advertising because it was going to give us return on investment. So like, how y'all thinking about that? I feel like there's a lot of entrepreneurs today. You can relate to this because you're doing like content creation. One of the things you do in content creation is like try to get eyeballs or like put your money in advertising, try to get reach. How are you kind of assessing where your money is going to go? And like, I'm pretty sure that's a big challenge because if you blow through your money, investors going to look at you stupid. But if you really like double up every dollar that you get in, is she doing something right? How are you going about that?
So one, I just think it comes with like having short and long-term goals. Like what are the things you want to accomplish in 6 months to a year? And then for us, it was just like, so we're building out the V2 of our software right now. So like a lot of the money that we have gotten from those grants or that we just got from like our first round is going to go towards app development. So like whether it be like bringing more offshore developers, bringing on like a new engineer, like whatever it may be, like it's going to be a lot of those resources are going to go towards development. And then we just talked about like, who do we want our next hire to be? Whether it be like a customer success manager, a salesperson, another software engineer, like how do we want to allocate resources for like our headcount or like our people? But everything else, we're still kind of bootstrapping it. Like the content has really been like a grassroots, no ads, no nothing. And that's, you know.
I think that's the best when you do it organic.
Right? Yeah. From the ground up.
Most definitely. You just did like some a paid reach right on Instagram.
Yeah, bro, I was like Afrotech. I was like, man, let me try this shit. So I like chose a target audience around the same location. Did like $300. We had hella visits into our page, no conversions. Maxed out the whole budget, no conversions. And I was like, I'm not gonna put money into it.
Kind of makes you think if it's even a scam.
Advertising
like,
industry.
I think it's
well,
just like.
I think you have to really know who your target market is. Like, and if you haven't identified that, it's not worth it. Like, then it is a scam. Yeah.
So get there. I feel like you gotta have the right offer because if you just have advertisement, they see it.
Right.
That's cool, but like you have the right offer that's gonna grab them and get their attention and make them.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
that
true.
might be a piece that you're missing.
But it's down to knowing like who's gonna click on it regardless. You know,
but
like it's like.
Hold on, because we was having this. Hold on, wait. This is good. Me and my girl was having a debate, and I was on her ass. She was like talking about advertising is more effective than word of mouth. And I was like, hold on. So is like advertising really building brand awareness, or is it actually building trial? You know what I'm saying? Like.
See, I think that goes back on to knowing your target audience, because if you know your target audience, you know the specific tactic, what to do to pull them in. But if you don't know your target audience, like you said, you pay for advertising. Yeah, they viewed it, but it wasn't enough to draw them in, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So you have to go back and market and pinpoint, okay, so they're looking at it, but what can I do to improve it to get them to actually, seal the deal?
Yeah, it's like knowing like what they want, right? Like it's like, who are the people that want what you're offering?
Right.
Yeah. And like you have to really segment like who those ads are going to based off of that. So like unless you know that, you shouldn't put money into ads. And I think that's also why we haven't done that yet. It's like there's so many people who have like interacted with our content in some way. Not all of them have bought like our software though. So like how do we actually pinpoint like who that would be?
I mean, I guess it could be a good thing though, even though they don't buy it now. But I feel like if you
it's
could
still
just keep,
it's the awareness. Yeah.
What do you do? Because I know you do a lot of content creation.
Bro, I can't even really try to give you the recipe because I'm still trying to figure out the recipe myself. Like we're talking about, I'm trying to figure out my target audience and what they like to see, because necessarily some stuff with content creation is kind of weird, because some of the stuff that you like to do, your audience might not like. So like I'm kind of just trying things out, doing some things that I like to do, but also doing some stuff that I don't necessarily like doing. And some of those get more views than what I like to do. So it's just trying to figure out.
So what do you like to do? Like what is?
I'm as far as content creation, I'm right now going between YouTube and Instagram. Basically, I'm really into fragrances, so I'll do like fragrance videos. And I see my fragrance videos don't get a lot of views, but when I do fashion videos, those are the ones that actually blow up. And like and like transition videos, like like on Instagram, I can have on one thing, then I'll like snap my finger and I change it to another thing. Those are really trendy on like Instagram and TikTok.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So it's just trying to figure out what the people want to see.
Right.
Trying to hack the algorithm.
Exactly. Learning the algorithm. Right. Because Instagram picks and choose kind of what they want to see. Like I was saying, like my fragrance videos don't get a lot of love, but anytime I post anything about fashion, those blow up.
Yeah.
So,
and like the fragrance thing, it's like if it's through the video, it's hard to really interact with the fashion.
Exactly.
Clothes, like so
just trying to play around with it. But pinpointing off of that, since we only have about, I guess, a month left, what are some of y'all long-term goals or even short-term goals for 2023 for both of y'all business or brands?
30 days away, baby.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So I already know y'all got the whole year planned for next year. I want to hear about the properties too.
Well, before the end of the year, we wanted to close out our pre-seed round, which we're about to do. So we raised 1.1.
Hold on, that's big.
That's really good.
When I first talked to you, y'all was not there. I think I had just raised the guys. Y'all had just raised the Guy Ross grant.
Yeah, we had got. I think. Yeah, we had.
I was doing research, bro. Like that was just what August of 2020.
So in August, by then we had been in like the Amazon one. So we had gotten like the Amazon grant, the $125K from them, but it was just that Amazon and then the NPR thing.
That's it. So that's big.
Yeah. So
it's like shit could change fast.
Shit could change really fast, and that was our goal. Was like before we head into 2023, we want to close out the pre-seed round. So we've done that. Next year, I think it's just like hitting profitability. So like we know our revenue targets and like what we would need to do in order to hit profitability. So like that's the goal.
Yeah. Have you thought about the long-term goal, if this is something you want to keep, or like let's say
the goal is to
somebody comes and
the goal is to exit and we have the amount, so we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
And Grant, with the properties, like what's your long-term goals? 2023, I guess short-term, mid-term, long-term.
Yeah. So for the properties, that's like a real passive thing that I'm trying to do. Like I really just want to buy a property every year. I didn't buy one this year, because just little things happen. But my goal for next year is to just continue to grow my portfolio. I want to buy another property. I have a duplex right now. I have a long-term tenant on one side, and I have Airbnb on the other side. So just maintaining that property and then buying another one. I have a sportswear company that I mentioned I do with my dad. And most of our business has been in Indianapolis. That's where I'm from. I play college basketball, so like our business is around basketball, youth sports. But I'm back in Chicago now, so my goal is to scale our business here with AAU teams and schools. So that's really my biggest goal for next year.
Y'all boys tapping in Texas. AAU teams out there be big.
Yeah, we actually just got a junior college in San Antonio.
Oh, for real? What's the name?
The name is escaping me right now. I can't think of the name right now. But
Yeah.
But yeah, we're in 9 states right now. Probably 80% is like Midwest. But we've done some deals like in Oregon. We did one in California, the one in San
So
Antonio.
live, bro. Yeah, after this, we're definitely gonna need the info so we could put it on the
for
link
sure.
or whatever.
Yeah, SVI Sportswear.
Yeah,
SVIsportswear.com.
Check it out.
Rashad, is there any long-term goals for you with like content creation?
So for sure. So
short-term, mid-term, long-term.
So kind of short-term and long-term, kind of know my audience, kind of like you said, like D'Angelo said, learn the algorithm, and just basically with me, I find my biggest flaw is being consistent. Like I'll do it and I'll be into it. Yeah. Then, I will kind of lose interest and kind of fall off. But with content creation, you have to be consistent because your audience always going to want more. Once you catch their attention, they're always going to want more. And also after blowing up from there, probably go into business with product, but I'm not sure which product. I'm not sure if I would want to start like a fragrance or if I wanted do something with fashion, kind of just figuring out that niche and then being more consistent with that.
Bro, you should start your own fragrance though.
I think quick little thing. I feel like you were saying earlier, everybody has something like that's unique to them, right? That's very true, bro. I feel like I was telling you, ever since you started doing the content creation, like just putting like your you out there.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody who could duplicate you.
That part.
That's first and foremost. Like people can try to copy, but boy, you ain't got the sauce like I do. You know what I'm saying? So
you can't compete where you can't compare. There you go.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like ever since when like I started doing videos, and once you start getting out that comfort zone and doing like videos and not caring what people is saying, shit really changes up. Yeah. You feel me? Because now it's like the sky's the limit. You could just put yourself out there as many times as you want, and people gonna tune in and they really fuck with you and like care with the information.
Exactly. Those who really fuck with you, like you said, excuse my French, but they gonna push you. And they'll tell others.
Yeah.
So what about y'all long-term goals for 2023?
Right.
So I have. I'll let you take it out, bro. Big bro.
I was gonna say, long-term goal. Well, I don't even know if it's short or not, but quit my job. I gotta quit my job and go full time. I say long-term is try to get this app just really pushed out and maybe like to 5,000-10,000 subscribers. That would be really good. But we'll see how things go. We just gonna take it day by day, man. Because sometimes when you like set expectations and you don't meet them, you just beat yourself down on it. So
I think there's like there's a lot of probability. So I'm a card counter, and like I've lost some great. Like bro. No. Okay. It's like it's very relevant. Oh, he's seen it. It's very relevant. Let me tell you something. It's like you can set expectations, but bro, there's a lot of probabilities are just probabilities. Shit can happen all the time, right? You know what I'm saying? Like shit could go south, even though the probability is in your favor in the short term. So like personally, we're putting out this app. We think we got a market where it's like kind of like Afrotech. There's a big intersection that needs to be addressed when it comes to pop culture and financial literacy. There's not stories about Bad Bunny opened up a steakhouse, right? I've never heard no stories about no Latinos and money involved within like the Wall Street Journal, MarketWatch.com, etc. Wall Street Journal might do it a couple times to kind of like, get in there, but they're not really doing it. You're going to see those stories in alternative sources, what I like to call like Afrotech, you know what I'm saying? Me Too. So we're trying to like establish this app, put it out there. Hopefully it's out by the end of the year and get to beta testing where people can not only see those stories aggregated in one place, but also be able to see what's happening in mainstream financial markets, right? Because they need to be aware of that. If there's a market for that, only time will tell. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully that's goal number one. Be able to see that there's a market for that. If there's a market for that, it's off to the races. And I think that's what we're focused on right now. Oh, yeah. It's like, I've been talking to him. We was talking about VC money at first and stuff. And I've been talking to some VCs, bro. There's this dude I talked to. Shout out to Arian from Vamos Ventures. He was telling me, he was like, bro, so what you need? And I told him, I was like, man, I need money. He was like, no, you don't. And I was like, he was like, what do you need? I was like, bro, if I don't have money, I can't do XYZ. He was like, so why can't you do XYZ? Because I don't have a developer. He's like, you need a developer. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, it's not the same having like offshore developers. And so he was like, you need to go out there and sell yourself to a developer just like you sold yourself to your shorty. Yeah. You're right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, those are our top two things. Get a developer, market fit, and off to the races.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about to be a big year.
There you go.
Big blessings for everybody. 2023 coming.
Say, man, but we pushing about an hour and 20 minutes now. Y'all hungry or what y'all trying to do?
Yeah,
let's
y'all got some.
Let's go eat.
Y'all trying to eat?
One more before we wrap up. Where can we tell the viewers, like, if they're interested in real estate or your company, where can they find y'all at?
Oh, true.
True. Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram. GLeach_4. You can follow SVI Sportswear on Instagram, Twitter,
TikTok.
TikTok as well.
You be
Prep
dancing?
All-Stars. I do not do the dancing.
Okay.
My personal Instagram is Dumebi Egbuna, just like my full name. Chezie's Instagram is ChezieHQ, and then our website is chezie.co. So
How can we get into the Slack channel? How can we attend an event?
all on our
for
website.
Okay.
Yeah, all on our website.
All right, man. Well, shout out to Grant and Dumebi. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
You are, yeah.
Dumebi, okay, for hosting us. It's been a pleasure. Y'all have a beautiful home. Y'all have a
Best
beautiful
podcast
relationship.
Thank you.
Y'all have a lot going on for yourselves, and y'all are really building together. So for that, we want to applaud y'all. And we're gonna take you out to dinner, man. Let's go eat.
Flowers
Let's
now.
go eat dinner. Yeah.